Application controller. What is an application controller? What does it do? How is it different from the controller on the MVC development process? I found a good explanation on this topic in an article posted by Derek Bailey on the losttechies.com. Derek describes when will be a good time to use the application controller. Quote, some applications contain a significant amount of logic about the screens to use at different points, which may involve invoking certain screens at certain times in an application. This is a wizard-style interaction where the user is led through a series of screens in a certain order. In other cases, when we might see screens that are only brought in under certain conditions or choices between different screens that depend on early input. To some degree, the various model view controller input controllers can make some of these decisions, but as the application gets more complex, this can lead to a duplicate code as several controllers for different screens need to know what to do in a certain situation. You can remove this duplication by placing all the flow logic in an application controller. Input controllers then ask the application controller for the appropriate commands for execution against a model and the correct view to use depending on the application context. I also learned that application controller is best used in certain strategies, since application controller is responsible for the logic behind making decisions at the moment a user inputs data or a command. The logic that it uses can help the MVC controller to skip certain methods and move the application faster. Here's some of the strategies that I found. The application controller can be used as the command handlers, the view handler, transform handler, navigation and flow control, message handling, and some custom SOAPs and JX RP messages. All of these are very, very similar in the fact that they would control, like I said, the logic before the view or the model classes on an application. It helps the control model as well to be more reliable and easier to modify it as well, because placing these decisions or this logic before the control model on the MVC narrows down the possibility of duplicating script or data. Also helps to keep things more organized, more modular, and also to be more reusable as well. And let me show you what a control model looks like. In my application, I added the application controller before the control of the MVC controller. And what it looks like, let me bring this up. So on my application here, I have the main class here. I have the model, which contains the getters and setters. I have my view, which contains my display information for the user, and then the controller, which directs the inputs of the user to the model and the view. The application controller has one logic: whether or not to use a new or old list. This helps the controller, the MVC controller, to have only two functions: to start a new list or use an old one. And that way the functions I would have would vary. So my application controller has the logic of selecting the new or the old list, and then it would call my MVC controller and then run the rest of of the function or the application as usual. I see the benefit of this because with the application controller, taking this logic out of the controller, the MPC controller, makes it easier for me to debug, to add more functions as well, and also to make things more simple. So I see the benefit on the application controller, and that's what the application controller does.